For the AFL Hunter Central Coast, this is the Mark and the Mike podcast with Oliver Croft.
G'day and welcome to the Mark and the Mike podcast. In episode 12, we're catching up with a Premiership Panther from the Terrigal Avoca Panthers, Jack Grimmond-Lee. Amongst Jack's proudest achievements is playing with his dad and being able to prove himself as captain at the Panthers. Being the league's best and fairest twice, Jack is a player that demonstrates grit, competitiveness and good sportsmanship each week, and we are super excited to chat with him today. Well, Jack, great to have you on the Mark and the Mike podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to see what you've got in store.
So, Jack, tell me, how long have you been at the Terrigal Avoca Panthers for? Is this your only AFL club?
Yeah, so my father started here probably just before I was born. Probably, I don't know, I was trying to think about it. I think like 95, 94, and I was born in 97. So, yeah, I've only ever played for Terrigal Avoca, and, you know, it's been quite a wild ride, to be honest.
And so you say it's been a wild ride. Surely there's been, you know, the disappointing parts, the happy parts, the absolute euphoria parts. But what has been, and this might be a little hard, and it's okay if you have multiple answers, but what's been the best part about playing with the Terrigal Avoca Panthers?
Oh, it's going to sound a bit cliche, but I think the people that have come through there, like I've seen, like obviously being there for, starting at Auskick there and obviously coming through to now, like the different, I guess, just like presidents and everything, like just all the people, the playing group, like I think, and obviously being now in the different stages and watching and looking like now coming from a captain perspective and watching these kids like grow up and play like that I saw playing at 12 years old, and then obviously vice versa, me being in their position, playing with guys like Peter Van Dam and Jason Van Dam, and it's kind of like not, it's all it is. It's almost come full circle and just seeing the different community, and it's always kind of been my family away from my family, really. So I think that's probably my most exciting thing. You know, it's community football. Like it's like if you're not enjoying being there, then what's the point of being there? So I think that's probably my favourite part about the journey of being a Terrigal player. Yeah,
Jack, that is so good to hear that you think your footy club is like that family away from home. You get it from all manner of clubs, and I think it's just such an asset to hear players say that when they come on the podcast. It speaks, spades to what they are as a person, but also what it's like for a footy club and for people out there listening that want to give things a crack. So, but, you know, you are an extremely talented footballer, Jack. You have received the Elliott Davey medal in 2021. You've played in 5 grand finals with the Panthers. So for those that don't know, just behind the scenes, I get the guests, the players, to send me a little list of the achievements they're proud of. And Jack, you simply gave me 6 points, which was great. And one of them was about playing with your father in a grand final. So can you tell us a little bit more about this?
So this was probably my first introduction to senior footy, because when I was 16, we didn't have a junior side, so I wasn't able to play, and I was like, well, what am I going to do? Anyway, back then they had the 3rd grade set up, and I think there was a fair few teams in it, and Dad was like, oh, well, do you want to give it a crack? Like, you want to keep playing footy? And obviously I was keen as a bean anyway, so I was like, yeah, 100%, let's get into it. And then if anyone knows Spoonman or David Grimmond, he's not one to shy away from playing football. I think he retired about 6 or 7 times, I think, through his career. From the age of 40, I think he came back pretty much all the way through the 2000s. And then obviously coming towards his 50s, he decided to come and play with his son. So we played 3rd grade that whole year. And I think some of the biggest characters I've ever seen came out of that side, with players like obviously Luke Bury and stuff like that still playing with me today, which is quite an amazing feat. But yeah, being able to play with him, and him at 46 still being able to be honest, I think Bish had him up in 1st grade, but I think he was pretty content playing with me, which is quite an honour. So it was really good to obviously get through through that year, and then getting to that grand final against Newcastle, who were quite a formidable side. Like, it was very close. It was in and out. I think unfortunately one of our guys gave away a few too many 50-metre penalties, which led to our defeat. But ultimately, that Newcastle side was too strong. But the memory gained from that and the excitement of being in that was very good, because I was able to go back and then play juniors for under-17s, because Corey Hopper actually set up. That was his first year coaching, and he set that back up, and we played in that. And to be honest, playing senior football and then coming back to junior allowed me to, I think the growth from that was just ridiculous, to be honest. It was amazing. Like, I was middle tier, and then that ability to go back and then come forward had massive growth in my ability, which was really good, and just like the confidence as well, having your father there. It's quite an imposing person on the football field. So, no, it's an amazing impact, and, you know, like I said, we were able to do it the next year as well, but we went up, obviously, as I moved up a grade to First Division. He followed suit, but we unfortunately finished top, but we went out in straight sets. There's a couple of teams. The Wild side was too good, and so was that Newcastle side. Newcastle's always has a really good depth. So, yeah, those two sides. I still remember the loss. We had to go from there and I had to play under-17s straight after it in the prelim for that. So I played that in First Division and then went straight over and played at, I think we played at 12, and then went over and played at 2 o'clock at Hilton Moore. Against CrossFit or something. But yeah, no, it was pretty amazing time to be able to do it. Looking back on it, I do find it very fond moments.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, Jack, that's a great rundown of how special it was to play with your dad. I'm going to take it back just a couple of minutes there. You used the phrase that I was keen as a bean to get out there and play football. So, I mean, we know what you all look like, but I'm just trying to imagine a 16, 17-year-old Jack Grimmond-Lee keen as a bean. What does that look like?
Not much thought for self-preservation, I'll tell you that much. I got bumped around a few times. I think I almost got knocked out once against one of the Newcastle sides when we went up there. They showed me what for. But I think just pure energy. I think we had this photo that we took. I think one of our photographers took, and it was I still remember it now. I think I still got it on my phone. Where I was at Newcastle number 1, and just pace and being able to just burn around. You know, just that, like, the confidence that a 16-year-old has on the football field. You know, like, they think it can take on anything. But I think just someone who wanted to get it done. I was a small forward at that stage, and then kind of pinch it in the wing and stuff. So, yeah, just someone who just wanted to take it on. Skills were putrid, but just wanted to go out there and, you know, make a name for myself and try and play a bit of footy and win some flags. That was the main thing. We just had a group that just wanted to play and just have fun, really. So it was just to have fun. Every
player has a different answer to this question. Why Australian rules football? Why wasn't it basketball or NRL, or, you know, especially when NRL is so big up here? Why was it AFL?
Oh, well, obviously big, like from my father, obviously, is a big one. Obviously, because he came up here from Albury, Wodonga down there. So obviously he was playing with the Panthers, like I said, before I was born. I don't know, I like the freedom, and obviously soccer's a little bit like it too. But in terms of that, doesn't matter what size you are. I think in AFL there is a niche that can be hit for any player. And, like, if you get your friends to play it, it's a very hard game to master. But to pick up, once you get those rules out of the way, obviously not hitting people high or tackling them too low, and where the big sticks are, I think it's quite easy to get a hand of. And once you get that, you understand it, and that free-flowing nature of it, it's infectious, and it's, I don't know, it's quite, I just love the ability to go out there and, you know, when you make a running play or you run with your team or you set something up and you work together to achieve something, it just kind of, it stays with you. And obviously winning premierships kind of helps as well, to keeping the fight alive. But I think just my competitive nature and obviously where AFL football's heading more so now up here is quite an amazing thing. Premiership back in 2005, so it would have been around 8, so it kind of kept me going in that regard too. So I think there's a lot of things, but I think the key one there is just the freedom of AFL and the infectious nature that it brings with the competitiveness.
Yeah, well said, Jack, well said. You mentioned that if you could have anyone over for dinner, one of them would be Dustin Martin, the great Tigers great. So was there ever an AFL player you tried to mimic your skills off? Was it Dusty or someone else?
I wish I had Dusty's playset. I think he's a couple of inches taller, but I'm not much taller. But well, I don't know. Like, I watch a lot of film, like watching players play. But I don't know. I think I always idolised a lot of the inside midfielders that could go towards the outside, like a Patrick Dangerfield probably, because he was pretty much from when I was, you get to like the age of 11 and 12 and you start to understand a little bit better. Like he was at the prime of his power, would probably be one of the players like that powerful midfielder that will just try and run through anything and do anything for his team. As he's gotten older, you've seen that in that leadership that he is. He's not really the biggest stayer on the field, but the way that he leads through his actions is probably the thing that I would take from him. So
turning our attention a little more broadly now, Jack, we look at the history of the AFL on the Central Coast and realise that the Black Diamond Football League was only formed in the year 2000. So there was the Newcastle Football League and then there was the Central Coast Football League. So once they combined, this made Terrigal Avoca a pretty far-flung club down south. So do you like travelling away for an away fixture and away atmosphere?
Yeah, like, to be honest, like, I don't mind. Like, when I was younger, when my father would go up there and they would play against Nelson Bay, like, that we would just stay up there. Like, it's, like, most of the places we go are quite beautiful around here. And obviously the field make up for it. And, it's always good. You usually get a bus trip. And obviously, like, they can be fine. If people have commitments, obviously it can make it quite hard, but I've never really had that problem. Obviously, being a school teacher, that doesn't really affect me. But, no, I enjoy part of the travel. It's not over, like, I think, Singleton's the furthest that we have to travel. I haven't had to go to Muswellbrook, but, no, I enjoy it. I think it's a really good bonding exercise and another space where you can get connected to your teammates.
You look down at the Central Coast. You've got Baddo Bay, the Wyong Lakes Magpies, the Killarney Vale Bombers. They're just the senior team. You think about the Arimba Dockers. There's quite a few down there. The Woy Peninsula Swans. Who do you think your biggest rivalry is in your time playing?
I think that's pretty straightforward. I think anyone about that is obviously Killarney Vale. Obviously, they've been. They took that one off us in, 21 or whatever it was, a few years ago. I don't know, there's players I've played against since, forever. That I played against, like Josh Misfit and stuff. Like, they've always been there and I've played against them. I've had a rivalry against them, like, obviously, pretty angry at each other on the field, but obviously no bad blood there. Like, but they would be my biggest rival. I do get up when we play against them. And I do like versing them, to be honest, because they always, even if their side, depending on year to year, they always will put in what they have to. And especially playing there, it's a little bit of like a little fortress for them because of the smaller field and the tighter play in terms of contested. I always like playing there because it kind of plays to my game too. Maybe
your biggest rival from the Newcastle region?
No. What do you reckon? Big old Newcastle Blues, isn't it?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, Jack. I was actually thinking Cardiff because you guys have met several times in prelims and grand finals, so I wasn't sure. See, I'm the one asking the questions here.
Don't get me wrong, like they're pretty close, but obviously having so many grand finals, like I think that Newcastle side always seems to, even with the amount of players that come out and come into that side's always ready to go. And I've had a couple of Blues against them that obviously I've ended up on the short side of it. But, it just makes that rivalry even more passionate. Don't get me wrong, obviously, like versus Cardiff too. And to be honest, early 2000s when I watched them, they had a really great side with obviously they had Rhino at the helm playing at that full forward. And those in the early mid-2000s were pretty ridiculous. They were the power at the time. But in terms of playing, obviously we've had games throughout the years that have been, but that constant's always been that Newcastle there, the Blues. So I'd have to say the Blues with a Cardiff close second, I guess.
Yeah, all right. Sounds good. Sounds like we also touched a nerve there, so we'll just...
No.
No, I know.
It's all, what happens on the footy field stays on the footy field.
No, absolutely. No, Jack, you're a great sportsmanship. It's one of the most enjoyable things about watching you play is how fired up you get in the game, but then the ability to shake hands at the end. And absolutely, the true competitor, the true sportsmanship on the line right now. So, but, let's address the true elephant in the room because, Jack, congratulations. You were part of the 2025 Panthers Premiership over Newcastle City last year, the 9th time you two sides met in a grand final. Congratulations and what an achievement.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I wasn't there for the majority of it. I was in an ambulance looking after my shoulder, but, it was good all that time and effort the boys put in throughout the year and being there for them paid off. And to be honest, it's good to see them break through because a lot of those guys weren't there in 2020. So a lot of the guys that either came over from Gosford or have come up from juniors have been putting their blood, sweat and tears in, and seeing them all finally break through was, it's quite a emotional moment. It was good just to see them all there. I was a bit sore and battered, but it was really special moment, especially as a captain there, seeing all those young guys come through.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it there, Jack. It wasn't exactly a great day for you. What actually happened with your shoulder that day? Talk to us about that.
It ended up being quite long-winded. I ended up staying. There's a little hospital, just clinic thing across the road there, but I was in the ambulance, couldn't figure out what had happened. So everyone thought it was dislocated. So everyone's trying to yank it back in, get me back out. Obviously, I want to get back out there. Because I just looked at it, I've got no idea what's going on. But I'm looking at it, and we get the ambulance. He goes, it's not going back in. You probably have to go to the hospital. I'll drive you there. I'm going, I'm not going. Last time I left the grand final, when I got my teeth pushed in one of the grand finals, I left the game that we lost. So I had a little bit of PTSD that I couldn't leave the field. I had to watch the game play out. So stayed and watched, and then went over to the clinic. And the shoulder came up with the AC joint had ruptured. So that wasn't ideal. But in terms of the shoulder, no real break, which was good. But in terms of the shoulder, it's come back good, and I'm back training full 100% already, which is really good to see. So, no surgery. I'm already back on the track, so ready for another year.
Yeah, no, well, that's good to hear, Jack, and it sounds like you've been knocked around a few times in the grand final, and I like how you described it as, it just wasn't ideal, no big deal. But yeah, I mean, still, you get to put your name to that premiership team. You started on the field and you contributed in the best way you could until that incident. So, the grand final that you were a part of, the pre-game before, the AFL Hunter Central Coast, it's a big day in Newcastle at number 1 sports ground, 4 grand finals. You get to the change rooms, you're on the bus ride up, you're in the car ride up. What's the mood like? What's the message?
Obviously, you don't want to expend too much energy, obviously, before, because the excitement of the day can take hold. And a lot of the things I do to obviously help myself and help the younger guys is more so just to relax, don't kick the ball for an hour, because it always seems to be, it's either bucketing down or it's like a scorcher. It's like a 31, 32 degree day. I think we had one, I think it was the year before. The sun was just absolutely belting. So it's more so just staying calm, keeping to the routine with it. You don't want to change anything. Play like you usually do. It's just another game in terms of that regard. And then obviously once you get on that field, then moving into it. Obviously there's always going to be excitement, but obviously following instructions, Bishy keeps them pretty tight-knit and they know what they got to do. I think we had a lot of players this year who just were very good at playing their role and did the right thing at the right time, and obviously that came out on the day, which was really good to see, and everyone kind of followed its suit in that. So, the main points that I would take from it.
Yeah, absolutely. And having been a part of 5 grand finals yourself, when you sort of look back, is there a common theme or a common part of the day that you go, yeah, that's the bit I look forward to most on a grand final day? Is it first arriving at the ground, or is it more like you enjoy the training session beforehand?
Oh, not in the game. I always think the first bounce and doing the national anthem's always an exciting part of it, and everyone comes together. But obviously those training sessions before the in the last week, I always find them quite nice, because you always get past players coming back, and everyone's up and about, and you get all players. Everyone's ready to help out and be on deck. Obviously for players that are towards the cusp, it does make it a bit harder. Obviously it's nerve-wracking in that regard. Like, obviously you don't like seeing players miss out, but that's obviously footy, isn't it, really, in that regard. But I think just that whole week, in terms of the build-up and the anticipation, is, it's great. Like, it's obviously, I'm lucky I'm sitting here and I've played in so many grand finals, but I think that day is always each year is a different year, and I think it's important that you enjoy that moment, because you don't know when it's going to be the last one.
Yeah, well said, Jack. Look, I played footy for a small period of time, and as someone who was never a part of a grand final, you might have to bottle some of that feeling and hand it over, I think, because, we talked to a couple of grand finalists, and they all got, it's a magical day, and it's one of the best feelings going around, and it's like, well, I can only imagine.
I hate the whole build-up. I'd rather just get out on the field, but it's got to be, that's the way it is. I just want to, there's so much nervousness out there, and you just want to get out there. Photos, all of it, you're not missing out on much on that beforehand. But as I said, the week before is probably my highlight of it all. Obviously, being on that field and that first bounce is amazing, but the week before is probably the best. Just the club in general, because it's a club achievement. 5
grand finals for you, Jack. What years were they?
They were, I think it started in 17, 18, and then 19, 20, and then obviously the new one now with that one. So, yeah, my first year senior, and then we were able to go through, which was, 2017 then.
Yeah.
Might even be 2016, I actually can't remember exactly. There's definitely the two on 2019 and 20. Because I remember we won every year Richmond did. So it might have been 16, 17, and then 19, 20. And because we didn't win in 19, but I was remembering. Well, I have another friend who talks about it. During that 2017, 2019, we kept talking about it, and we're going, Richmond's going to win, because we were winning. So it was, it was pretty interesting.
Yeah, no, absolutely awesome. Okay, well, I suppose those 5 grand finals, your favourite one?
I've got 3. Obviously, my first one, being able to get up. I remember we had the film on the projector, and the game played all night, over and over again. And I think I saw myself touch it about 2 or 3 times. I kicked the goal. It was in the goal square. But that one's obviously just special, just because of it being the first in terms of senior premierships, and being able all that time put in before that to get to that stage, all the early turn-ups, having to prove yourself. And that team at that stage was really strong. Obviously, a lot of those players played. I think they've won a lot as well, to be honest. I think they won in 2012 starting off with, and they won heaps through there anyway. And then obviously the one in 2020 was, I think we came back from COVID or whatever it was. Winning the Mick Bain in that one was pretty exciting. Forgot to mention that to you too, by the way. That was pretty good. At Kalani Vale there, that was an exciting grand final against Newcastle. We came up against they were a pretty young side, but they blew out of the gates at us, and everyone kind of looked at each other and were like, we don't know what to do here. And so but then the amount of what's it called? I guess leadership, and we'd been in that situation before, and seeing the boys come together, and I was still quite young at that stage, but they were able to push me through it, and obviously play that grand final, come back to win. That was quite an amazing one. And obviously this year, like I said before, with the amazing young guys coming through and kind of being that more leadership role anyway. But they're probably my 3 key moments out of the 5, but they're
Yeah, oh, that's great that you can have that memories. And I mean, I'll be honest, it's not that often I ask a player for, their favourite grand final if they have one, and I get a response, oh, I've actually got three.
Yeah, they're all important to me.
Oh, no, Jack, no, look, respect that. I can only imagine, so I won't judge you too harshly for it. But 2021, the Elliott Davey medal, the Men's Cup Best and Fairest, that's a huge achievement. It was a while ago, but I'll still say congratulations.
Thank you.
What was it like to get that on the at the Belmont 16s?
Yeah, see, it wasn't. We didn't actually go to Belmont because it was the COVID, so we all were sitting inside. It was all done on. It was all done by presentation on bloody Facebook, I think it was.
Oh, okay.
Because the season. See, that's why there was always an asterisk against it. But I was talking to one of the Warners Bay guys because I didn't really accept it. But I was talking to one of the Warners Bay guys, Deverell up there, and he was like, "Nah, bro, you earned it, and it's respected. Like you played great that year." And it kind of sunk in a bit more that year later, or whenever we came back from COVID. Those years are kind of all a bit shoddy in terms of where we played. But yeah, no, that was like now looking back at it, like obviously I can say like 2 times. It's quite a massive achievement. Obviously, James Webster's won that 3 times, but there's not many players in the league that have been able to say they've won it twice. So quite a monumental thing to achieve.
More often than not, you as the Panthers and Newcastle City meet in a grand final. We've touched on the rivalry, we've touched on the clashes, what the build-up's like and everything like that. But it must be, do you find it special to be a part of one of those teams that have such that massive rivalry?
Yeah, obviously it's super special. Like if you don't even just look in terms of league, just in terms of being able to play sport and be out there and do that on a, obviously not weekly basis, but being able to play them those 2 or 3 times a year, like it's obviously a penciled in spot. Like it's obviously quite amazing thing when you think about it, like being able to be up for so long, especially just thinking about it as just a Terrigal, obviously it's just a suburb on the Central Coast, like being able to have that rivalry against Newcastle City is quite an amazing achievement in itself. So no, it's always like I've always been someone who just, if we're able to play like rep football and all that, like I like to play as high of a competition as I can. And if I'm able up to the level, then I like to do that. And Newcastle always seem to be able to bring it each and every year. So it is looking at it. No, it is quite special. Yeah, 100% being part of one of those 2 teams.
Yeah, and I guess I asked that question in the sense that when I was little and I used to watch the Men's Cup, I used to maybe look at a Terrigal player playing on the field on a Saturday or even a Terrigal junior and almost like go, oh, that guy's from Terrigal. Like he plays with that club that is just so consistently good. And obviously being based in Newcastle myself, it probably wasn't an option for me to go down the highway, 1 hour and 40 minutes to play with the Panthers. But I just suppose, does it ever feel special?
You know what? Like hearing that from you is actually quite a that is really nice to hear. And like obviously being inside it and always being there, like I don't realise that type of feeling. But yeah, obviously being in it and like I understand where you're coming from in terms of like being able to see like the players before obviously have just created such a strong culture / just precedent / standard in there, you know what I mean? And obviously Chris Bishop being at the helm of all that, like he's just, created that, I don't know what the word I'm looking for, but like I just go back to standard, I guess. Like the awe of it is, it's quite special, especially just in local football. Like it is quite nice to hear that from you. And, hopefully, like, obviously you're doing the podcast, but like inspiring kids like that anyway is obviously quite an amazing feat, and obviously your role as a role model too. So it's quite special to hear that.
Yeah, no, thank you, Jack. No, I love what I do with representing the AFL Hunter Central Coast and all 13 teams of the league. And similarly as I've grown up, I've realised that even those really good teams have those pockets of losses or slips in form. But no, thank you, Jack. That's much appreciated. Look, Jack, that actually brings us to the end of our episode. So thank you so much for joining me today on The Mark and the Mic. It's been an absolutely brilliant episode, and I've loved every minute of it.
No, thank you. No, it's good to have a bit of a chat and just walk down memory lane a little bit. As people say now, I'm pretty much a hunk, as my teammates love to call me. So, no, it's good to, talk about it because, it's history in the football club, not just with me, but obviously everyone there. So, thank you for spending your time too.
No, thank you, Jack. You've got quite a long memory lane, and we've loved every bit of it.